presented by Dano Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the latest episode of the Sun Belt Syndicate. Back to a little bit of football, right, Dominic?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's always football season.
Yeah, we got the two Dominics on the screen tonight. TJ was supposed to be with us as well. I should have extended the invite to Dominic earlier. It was kind of a last-second thing with some planning, and also wanted to give him notes that I don't have anything for him. So, unfortunately, he's going to be flying by the seat of his pants here. But the good news is, Dominic, tell him a little bit about your background. I mean, this isn't new to you, this whole NFL draft, the pro day. Tell them what you've done, why you are literally an expert in the field of the NFL draft.
I don't know if I'd call myself an expert because I'm always trying to learn and grow. But the last 3 years, I've been fortunate enough to work in the scouting department for the NFL Draft Bible and help put that book together. We just recently released the 2025 edition, which was probably one of the better ones, if not the best one that we've put out. So,
and where can people find that for these diehards that love the NFL draft?
Through All Access Football. You can just go to All Access Football, and it'll be right there as the Draft Bible.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome. We got some people already throwing in some comments. Michael Bias saying, Mike Green representing the Sun Belt well. Go Herd. While we read this second one from Artie Cat. Hello, Dominic and Dominic. Sounds like an 80s TV detective series. Well, Dominic had to do a ton of detective work to get that draft Bible done. I had a couple conversations on the phone with him about, I mean, you did one big background thing where you're doing all the writing, but you also went to a couple different events that also helped you with some of that writing. So tell them about some of the background. I think you saw Mike Green up close and in person, and a couple other guys from Sunbelt, actually.
In Mobile, I was able to see Mike Green show up and show out for NFL personnel and really make a name for himself for those people that maybe didn't view him as a high prospect necessarily. And I think he definitely made money at or during his week at the Senior Bowl in Mobile. And then saw a few people at the College Gridiron Showcase too. I want to say the running back from Appalachian State was notable.
Amani Marshall.
Yeah.
And to note, we do have to give respect to both of those players where they started. Some of these people are seeing the name of the school by their name now and being like, oh, this is a small school guy. Well, we also have to be fair and honest up front. Both of those players started at Power 5 institutions. Marshall at Wake Forest and Green over at Virginia. So, some of the people that are saying these small school guys, they ended up at a small school or a Sunbelt school, as we are going to look at tonight. But you have to also see where the pedigree was. At some point, someone thought of them so highly that they made a Power 5 institution. So these are small school guys in one sense of the word only. So this is why they have a little bit of a pedigree, as we're seeing in this pro day, scouting combines. What do they call these things? Are they all just kind of considered scouting events, or?
Yeah, just different scouting events. I mean, you have the big one in Indy, obviously, for the NFL Combine, and then the schools will have their individual ones where if you go to the Combine and are nursing an injury or rehabbing an injury, you have that pro day to fall back on to where you can still do the 40 and everything like that, and all the measurables that all the scouts like to drool over.
Yeah, they do like to drool over those things. That's for sure. But one thing I do want to mention, TJ was also supposed to join us, supposed to be a little bit of a 3-man crew here. And Dominic was only supposed to come in at certain intervals to be our expert. That's how I had surmised it in my mind anyway. But TJ about cut his finger off before we got started here today. So he is dealing with that.
9 more. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, hey, be a hockey player, take that thing up and get on here. But he's working through it. I told him, be smart here. We don't need anybody, passing out or anything else because of a finger. But it's pretty bad. I did see a picture, so hopefully he gets right, and hear from him relatively shortly that he's good. Whether he shows up or not, hopefully he's just good. But yeah, I was actually going to
Ronnie Lott, right?
Yeah, Ronnie Lott. That's true. Yeah, just cut it off and move on, right?
Yeah.
They don't make them like that anymore. Ronnie Lott was truly one of a kind, and younger people in the audience tuning in right now are like, "Who the hell is that?" But
pretty much.
Yeah,
I actually had that conversation with a younger football fan too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, back in the day, football was different, folks. For those that don't know, I know Artie tuning in definitely knows about old school football because he was just on Monday's show talking to us about old school baseball. So definitely versed well in all of that. I actually just had to. My buddy sent me an article, totally unrelated. Actually, Seth from the baseball show sent me an article that had a quote from Animal House where it's like, was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? And he was like, man, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know that it wasn't the Germans. And I'm like, you don't know what that's from? That's an Animal House quote. So I had to send him the YouTube clip to teach him that it was from the movie. So we'll have to see. And Neil says tough as nails. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Ronnie Lott certainly was. He probably, if he was around in this day and age in football, I don't know who would be able to stick with him on the field. I don't know if there's anybody made that way now. Also, science has advanced. He probably didn't have to do the whole thing with the finger if he was working with today's medicine. But regardless, let's see. Artie Cat says, Dominic, how are the measurables looked at in today's world? Work ethic, smarts, etc. That's a great question, and one that I definitely had on the docket to ask you and TJ. So yeah, let us know. I mean, obviously you've seen the players, you've asked some things, you've seen a lot of stats, but what are you also hearing from the guys that you're working with in the background about what matters most and how it stacks up?
I mean, even just in general, you want them to be students of the game. I mean, you're not going to want like the Kyler Murray rumor of him just playing Call of Duty. You want them to be students of the game. You want them to be able to just hold their own and learn and develop. Work ethic. You almost kind of want that first in, first out of the locker room mentality. You find all that out by talking to everybody you can at any given school about the player, from the custodian through the coaching staff, including his teammates.
Yeah. How much of like a certain measurable for a certain position matters? Like, when you're looking at a running back or a wide receiver, obviously 40 time comes into play. It's why it's such a big deal and such a big mark for the measurables. But is that like, obviously it moves guys up and down a little bit, but how much is that weighted compared to like what they've seen on tape? Or I don't know if there's a good way to answer that, because obviously there's people that think differently, but I don't know on like an overarching sense of the question, if you have a feeling on whether the speed kills time dynamic, it puts them well above others, or if it's kind of even when you also compare kind of what they've done on tape on the field as well.
I mean, it's equal parts of the same, of developing the narrative or developing that evaluation of the player. In some instances, they just don't run a 40 well, but they play quick. A lot of times, instead of looking at the overall 40 time, we'll look at the 10-yard split and how fast they go in that first 10 yards, just to measure or get a sense of their acceleration and their burst when they're trying to break on running routes and everything. I mean, it's not Sunbelt related, but like I think back to this past Senior Bowl with Tez Johnson and Xavier Restrepo, Oregon and Miami. Everybody was raving about Tez Johnson's speed, but he weighed in at like 5'8" and 190, maybe.
Well, the funny thing is, you say it's not Sunbelt related. It is Sunbelt related, because guess where Tez Johnson started at? Boy, he was a Trojan. So it was, see how this is crazy. People don't think about some of these things, right? These guys are moving schools all the time. That's literally Sunbelt related. So it's a great example for you to use just there.
And then you have Restrepo that literally measured in height-wise the same, but was a good 40 pounds heavier. And if I'm looking to build a team, I know neither one is going to be like on the boundary as far as a receiver. So you're looking at probably more slot receiver from both of them. I want the guy who is built a little more to be able to withstand the impacts of people that he's going to run through traffic to try and catch balls from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you definitely have to have a little bit of a physical side these days with the receiver, because these corners and these safeties are getting bigger, it seems like. I mean, I've seen 6'3" and 6'4" at those positions now, which I feel like back in the day, those guys were just not looked at as much because they thought they'd be taller, lankier, and I don't know, not as athletic or something. But these guys were coming.
I mean, like we mentioned, that everything's changed from nutrition to the training programs, and the weight training, and that's all changed and improved over the years. So you're going to have people more like DK Metcalf rather than not,
Yeah. The candy guy, DK Metcalf. I love when they asked him about his diet, and he's like, "Yeah, I drink coffee. I eat like one meal a day, and then I have like a whole bag of candy. It's great." And he does an 8-pack. I mean, those are the things dreams are made of for the rest of us. But obviously, being in the gym for like 4 hours a day probably helps him look like that too. So,
and I'm sure he has all the nutritionists in his corner too. So,
right, yeah, he can afford to have fun little snacks sometimes with how he trains. Neil, going back to that Ronnie Lott statement when we were talking about how long he'd be around.
Yeah, he probably would
be kicked out by halftime. Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably true. It's probably true. Ben's talking about a projected 7th rounder for A-State. Yeah, we're gonna talk about him here in a little bit. Artie Cat going back to the Animal House. John Belushi in the movie 1941 is hilarious. Must watch. Fictional comedy in the real Battle of L.A. Get to another one of Artie's questions, then we'll jump into a little bit of this draft specifically. He asked you, Dominic, who do NFL practice squads fit in? Did they develop players they find? Are they bringing in guys they feel like maybe have experience elsewhere, and all they've got to do is fine-tune them for their system? Maybe I'll put some words into Artie's mouth to just kind of give what you think or what you've seen with the practice squad aspect of the NFL.
I'd say probably a little bit of both. I mean, if you're bringing in a veteran who's maybe not familiar with the team and the system and the offense or defensive system, you're going to have them on the practice squad so they can get in shape, get used to the plays and whatnot. But a lot of times the practice squad will have developmental players that aren't that are projected as the priority free agents or the high priority free agents after the draft that don't necessarily get drafted, but they want to bring them in to see if they can make the roster and whatnot.
Makes sense. I think not a lot necessarily, but we've seen a number of Sunbelt guys make practice squads and hold on to a roster spot for a long period of time because of that. And those are not the prima donna positions. I mean, you got to really be a grinder to stay with that, and probably not make as much money as a fully rostered participant. And you can be doing that for years until it breaks through. And sometimes those guys are able to do it and keep that grind going, and sometimes they're not, or sometimes they figure out this isn't for me. If I'm not getting the field on Sunday, then I don't really want to do this. And those things happen as well. But Michael, going back to some Kelly Green thoughts here. I hope JJ Roberts gets drafted from Marshall. He's a ball hawk. He absolutely is. Probably a very good chance that he could see a draft position. But we'll look at that here in a little bit. Ben asking where TJ is. Cut his finger. Not a little cut. I won't show any graphic pictures that I was sent, but it's pretty deep. So he is taking care of that. So Dom and Dom will be with you guys for the rest of the evening. And if TJ gets that all fixed up and feels good enough, obviously I told him to jump on whenever, because he's gone through some of this, Dominic. I mean, he didn't make the NFL as far as a rostered player, but he did have a number of specific team tryouts, as well as went through a pro day and even did some CFL tryouts. So he did have some experience I was going to ask him about specifically as well that unfortunately, Dominic, you and I don't have. But, we have experience in other places. I played video games. I did a flag football league once. I mean, it kind of makes me an expert, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, man. All right. So getting to the draft, let's focus on the thing that's happening itself. We are here on a Wednesday evening. If you're listening to this the next day, it's already draft day. It's Thursday. But it does start on Thursday. Round 1, the 24th of April. Rounds 2 through 3 will be Friday. I like how they've kind of sectioned this off. It's much better than how they used to do it back in the day. And then rounds 4 through 7 are all on Saturday. There is no Sunday component to this anymore. It used to be like a whole weekend, right? Like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. It was just too much, man. Obviously, Dominic, this probably
never too much.
Yeah, I was going to just say, how much do you actually watch? That's probably a bad question for you because you are such an expert. You're tuned into this. You want to see. I'm sure. I'll ask you this because I now know the answer. How much you watch? You're going to watch the whole thing, and at the very least, keep up with every little pick, even if you don't see it live. But do you take notes and kind of compare with where you had, and kind of give yourself a little credit or some points in the background when you get a couple of these things right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know many people that don't want to kind of grade themselves and self-assess, and see how they rank players, or if they even, especially with the first round, because that takes everybody's attention on that first Thursday. It's one of those where I know years ago they had the predict the pick contest. Yep. Where you got to pick the first round draft, and even all the mock drafts that everybody does. You want to be as accurate as possible, and the only way to judge it is by seeing the draft play out, basically.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I don't ever really sit in front of the TV and watch this much anymore. I'm not as tuned in as far as you are, right? Like I don't know all the guys. We focus specifically on the Sun Belt on this channel, and so we kind of hope for those guys to get drafted. And I'm always kind of updating the phone. I'll tune back and forth, right? I mean, for me, I can't sit there and wait 12 minutes between each pick and hear these guys talk about some of the same things over and over about when's this guy going to go? When's this guy going to go? Some of that is interesting, but some of it is just a little repetitive, especially in those later rounds when, let's be honest, most common casual folks don't know all the names like you do, Dom. And maybe you'll admit you don't even know them all. I don't know. Maybe you feel like you do after all the research you've done, but I don't know.
I'll never admit that I know all the names.
Okay, I was going to say it is a ton of names to remember, even for the Sun Belt. I have stuff I've typed up. I have notes I've written by hand. I'm mixing back and forth. There's going to be guys that are left out of this. I'm sure there's teams, and I'll be upfront about some of this. There's teams that were really great about listing every single pro day participant and making it really easy and nice to find online and make my list that I'm making really easy. And then there was ones that just had like pictures with no labels of who it was and who it wasn't. There's articles that are behind paywalls that tell you all the participants. So some of these schools, I've got every single person that participated in a pro day. Other schools, I have like one or two. There's some schools I really don't have any of. I kind of figured out who didn't, the big name guys, but I don't know all of them. So yeah, we'll just be upfront with that aspect of it. But this is a good question. I've seen this a couple other spots, and Dom, you can tell me this. But App State News wants to know: do you all participate in the annual viewing of the movie Draft Day?
I actually love the movie. I mean, it's probably one of my favorite football movies, just because I'm a draft nerd and want to get into scouting. But I love the movie. I watch it every chance I get.
So I've heard stuff like that from the people that are really into it. If you're playing, Madden, and you go through and you want to pick all the certain things and get all these measurements and do really well, it's really an analytical person's favorite type of movie, right? Because it really does take you behind the scenes, from what I've heard, and show you a pretty accurate depiction. Again, from what I've heard, I even if I saw the movie, I wouldn't know if it's an actual depiction because I have not been at a draft. But I guess that's the viewpoint of the movie. I've never actually watched the movie. Maybe I shouldn't admit that, but I haven't actually sat down and watched the whole thing. Maybe I'll give it a shot. Maybe I'll do that while we're editing the audio version of the show later, which you really can't do because you can't listen to two things at once. But I do need to check that out. So that's one that I will be checking out eventually for sure. Artie wants to know who's the Browns and Jacksonville Jaguars' next victim. Better call Kevin Costner to remake that horrible draft day movie. There you go. This is what I was just talking about. Some people really didn't like it. Is it slow moving? Is that one of the reasons, Dom, that people don't care for it?
I mean, it's not the like Friday Night Lights kind of football movie. It's more the back end and what happens behind the scenes to build the team. Gotcha.
Okay. Warren's saying that he watched it last night and he loves it. Which I knew because he's a Troy guy. He's here for all the football episodes too. So that makes perfect sense. Artie said the trades made 0 sense. Absolutely zero. Player that could be picked up later, etc. Dom, all right, critique that part of the movie a little bit. Were the trades something that you were having a hard time believing in as well, or was it not as bad because you knew it was a movie type of thing?
The realistic side of the trades that they were offering, yeah, I'd say they probably changed it a little to make it more movie friendly.
Okay.
Make it a little more drama, I guess, for lack of a better sense, But yeah, it was a little far-fetched as far as the some of the trades that they were participating in.
Gotcha. All right. Well, so, how much can you really not believe in a trade anymore these days after you saw Luka Doncic get traded for what he did to LA, right? Like that, no one saw that coming and no one thought that was a fair trade, but hey, it's now happened. So maybe there are no trades that are off the table there. One thing that we definitely want your opinion on, Dom, is this first round draft order before we get into the breaking down of some of the Sunbelt history throughout some of the NFL draft. Tell us just a few noteworthy things or maybe some things you expect or would be surprised by. I don't know. Anything you want to tell us about this first round draft order. Maybe if you think or predict any trades too. I mean, I don't know. Whatever your thoughts are on this stuff.
I mean, my curiosity is going to be right around that 4 through 6 pick because you've got the Raiders in need of a quarterback. You've got the Saints now in need of a quarterback because of Carr's injury. So there's if there was an opportunity for a trade, it'd be somewhere in there where they wouldn't have to give up the farm to move up a whole lot, But if they're both set on, say, Shedeur Sanders, then they're both going to be wanting to position themselves to where they can get them,
Yeah. Do you think – so I heard a lot of talk – again, this is a Sunbelt focus show, but we're going to have other thoughts and feelings because we're going to talk about NFL aspects of this too. I heard someone say they wouldn't be surprised to see Shedeur Sanders fall out of the first round altogether. Do you think that even is a possibility, or do you just think there's no way that all these teams pass on him?
I don't think that's a possibility because even if he has some meteoric drop towards the end of the first round, someone can trade up from the second round into the back end of the first round to pick him up. So I think he's going to wind up going in the first round. I'm just not quite sure where.
Yeah, I think that's a big question mark. To me, reminds me not necessarily the intangibles, all of them, but a little bit of the cockiness, the bravado, like Cam Newton. It's kind of what I thought. I mean, when Cam Newton was coming out, I was like, this guy's full of himself. He's obviously very talented, but I don't know if the skill level's all the way there. And obviously, he rounded into form as a pro, took the Panthers to a Super Bowl and a really, really good season overall, and had a couple other good years, great stats. Do you think that
I'm not sold on Shedeur either, to be honest?
Okay. All right. There you go. That's what I was going to get to.
I heard him at the combine. He came across, like you said, very cocky. And like Ben said, I mean, I think his biggest crutch was that he played for his dad. If he had gone somewhere away from him to develop and actually show what he could do, I think that would have carried a lot more weight in a lot of people's eyes and possibly got him better prepared for the NFL game to be a true quarterback in the NFL instead of like the scrambling around looking for the big play kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, how much of that do you attribute to Colorado's line not being very good overall? I mean, I think that's one thing that I have heard is to be fair to Shedeur as well. He wasn't playing behind one of the strongest, he's not playing behind
no,
an SEC.
absolutely. Yeah. And I would factor that into it too, but just his cockiness. I mean, I don't see where the cockiness met the field play.
Gotcha.
And that's why I think him playing for his dad acted more of a crutch to him.
I could see that. What do you think about his number being retired?
Idiotic.
Yeah. I didn't know maybe whether the stats were a really good reason or not, but then I saw someone break down like his overall record, the bowl record, the championship record, and none of it was anything anybody would even be close to retiring anywhere else. So that part is the part where you're like, what are we doing here? But hey, we don't make those decisions. Ben has a good question.
Haven't even retired Cordell Stewart's number from Colorado.
Oh, that's crazy to think about. Yeah, that's crazy. They need to do that for sure. I mean, Travis Hunter, absolutely. There's no problem, no issue with that one. But Shedeur was definitely not just questionable, but I agree with you. It was kind of a dumb thing to do. But hey, we don't make those decisions. So moving on, Ben wants to know who's everyone's favorite team is. If people want to throw those in the comments. I recently kind of dropped the Panthers. I got sick of the stuff. I went to a bowl game around the stadium and got treated a certain way by some Panther staff. It rubbed me the wrong way after a couple terrible seasons with an owner that I didn't really much care for. And I said, I'm out. I'm a free agent. And recently this year has been a lot of fun. This past season was a lot of fun to watch the Commanders play with their new quarterback. I liked to watch him. He reminds me of, a former quarterback that I used to love in Armani Edwards. He's got a lot of that, do it with his legs, do it with his arms, just make incredible plays that you could see not coming out of anywhere. Plus, Washington's regionally close to me. So I'm picking up the Commanders and I'm going to stick with them. It'll also give me a lot of trash talk capability for my family members who are all Philadelphia Eagles fans. So yes, they have the Super Bowl right now, but I think the Commanders are coming and it'll give me a lot of fun to have in the years to come here. So Dom, what about your favorite NFL team?
Well, as I've circled through like the Senior Bowl and all these bowl games and the combine and all, every time someone asks me that, I say that my favorite team is going to be the one that employs me to be in their scouting department and help them build a winner.
Fair point.
I love what the Commanders did last offseason and all that. I want to see what they do year two. I was actually higher on them than most, so I was pleasantly surprised when they made it to the as far as they did in the playoffs. I got to respect what the Eagles do. They just literally have built a flat-out juggernaut. I just enjoy the process. And a lot of times, I mean, growing up in Miami, a lot of people would say I was a Dolphin fan, but as someone who got into scouting or got interested in scouting, I would always use them as like my case study of what to do and what not to do.
That makes sense. Yeah, you can see that. That makes sense. Well, speaking of a Florida team, we've got another question. Do you all believe the rumor of Jacksonville taking Ashton Genty? Dom, you're probably a little bit more in tune to that rumor than I am, so I'll lean on your expertise there or knowledge base of what you've heard.
I mean, it would feel right in that area. I mean, I could see him going anywhere from 3 to 6, to be honest with you. I think Joe Shane and the Giants are looking to erase that horrible blunder that they did of letting Saquon walk to the Eagles.
True.
And bringing in a guy like Genty would certainly help that.
Yes, it would.
You know, I don't necessarily see the Patriots bringing in a running back, unless there's a trade from someone that needs a running back, but I don't see someone jumping up that high. Jaguars, and I'm hearing more talk that he's better suited for the Raiders, or like being penciled in for a Raiders pick at 6. So
there's one thing that I feel like is a certainty. If he's there, the Raiders will do nothing else. They are only taking Gent. There's no way they pass up on a talent like that. With what they've done over the years with really athletic guys that they've drafted, whether they've worked out or not, they've always taken like the flashiest of the flashy picks. And I feel like that would be done. There's no chance Genty falls any lower than 6 to me.
Yeah,
and I'm not an expert, but I feel like I know how the Raiders draft pretty well, and there's no way that they would pass up on him. So I feel like it's safe bet.
Like you said, I mean, I don't see him falling below 6. So
yeah. Bush Knight. I got to meet this guy in person at the Marshall Soccer National Championship game. He says, if Mike Green goes number 1, I become the host of the show. Well, I don't know. I'll ask Dom, is there any chance in hell that Mike goes number 1 overall? And if you say no, then I'll say I'll take that bet to Bush Knight. And if not, then maybe I'll just counteroffer.
I don't see it, because I think the Titans are locked in at Cam Ward. I'd say Green will probably be in somewhere in that middle, in that teens area. Maybe the Bengals to get someone for Hendrickson, just in case they move on from him. But I don't see him going number 1 overall.
Yeah, I've seen a lot that have him in the 7 to 10 range. But seven is very slim, I think. I've seen a lot of people have him for the Panthers, Saints, and Bears, but the Bears seems to be the odds-on favorite for him right now, at least from knowledge that I've obtained here recently. It seems like a lot of people have him pegged as a Bears pick. And he'd be a great Bears player.
It all depends on his NCAA rating, right?
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Oh, man. And already saying, speaking of NFL teams, the Cardinals are just absolutely horrific at the draft. Legendary, near Jets level of the butt fumbling. So
I mean, I remember a couple of drafts for the Vikings and I think it was the Vikings where they forgot to submit a pick. So I'd put that over the Cardinals.
That's insanity. Insanity. Ben saying he's heard that Shedeur has played for Deion since 6th grade. Yeah, that goes towards the thing. You have to question whether he was a product of a system that was all about him. And how does that translate now when somebody else is the boss and telling him what to do? Well, you just don't know.
I mean, there's an adage, don't grade the helmet. But at the same time, it's like, if Shedeur had any name on the planet other than Sanders, would he be getting this kind of talk?
I don't think so. If I have to answer, I don't think he would. I think he'd still be drafted. Don't get me wrong. I think he's still a talented player.
I think he would be drafted because he's very talented. I'm not trying to knock his talent level. I just personally, the arrogance that he brings doesn't match what he's done on the field.
Correct. I agree with that full-heartedly. Artie Cat wants to say, will QBs ever be seen as running backs are today, easily replaced, or is that high-end talent really that rare in that position?
I don't think so, because I think with a QB, you're looking at arguably the most important person on the offense for that team. Everything's going to run through them, whether it be a passing play or them selling a play action, helping set up the run game. So I don't see them anywhere or getting treated as running backs are, where it's been a dime a dozen or worn into the ground and just trade up for a newer model kind of thing.
The only way I could see them being treated like that is if teams started moving back towards like a triple option thing. Because then, yeah, sure, you might as well have a running back at the quarterback position. You just rarely throw the ball. But yeah, I think it's so important to have the capability to throw the ball, and not just throw it, but put touch on certain passes, right? You got to know when to loft it, when to fire it in there. You know how to read defenses. I do agree with that last portion of Artie's question there. It is really that rare in that position. I think that's why you've seen so many guys that have immense talent not fully take advantage of their capabilities in the NFL.
Now, I would like to see them take a more realistic approach to the position, though. Like, I almost think the quarterback position is overvalued.
I believe that as well.
You get people reaching for a quarterback that might need a year or two of, we'll call it seasoning, sitting behind an established veteran rather than getting thrown straight into the fire.
Yeah, or getting picked too high, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's what I see the bigger problem with is like, why are you taking a quarterback now, like you said, who you hope to not even have to start right away, or you are taking him now and saying we're going to start him right away. The hell with 3, 4, and 5. I want to win 1 and 2. I think you got to be realistic sometimes. One team wins a championship in every sport every year. That's it. Everyone else fails if you want to look at it that way. So yeah, you just got to be smart about it.
Yeah, Artie made a great point.
You did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ben is a Seahawks fan. App State News saying he is a Steelers fan. Michael Bias, a Marshall fan, is saying he's a Saints and Bengals fan. So that's interesting. The Bengals make sense. Saints maybe need a little explanation on that one because that one's pretty far from up there in West Virginia. Warren is a Falcons and Broncos fan. A couple people got two teams here. Interesting. Artie Cat, which we figured out from the earlier comment, or at least I ascertained from the earlier comment, the Arizona Cardinals is his favorite team. You can't pass with tears in your eyes. This is what Buddy writes. That's true. And Ben just doesn't want anybody to say the Cowgirls, aka the Cowboys. Well, what's funny is TJ Corbin's favorite team is the Cowboys. So we can pick on him since he's not here tonight to hear that. But he also thinks Genty's going to end up with the Giants or Browns. I definitely could see the Giants, like you said, Dom. The fact that they lost Saquon and now how bad that looks that he's gone on with the other team and won a championship. Yikes. Artie loves that Bengals helmet. And, it's definitely one of the best ones they've got. I like the white and black one. What do you think about the white and black tiger stripes?
I like it. I mean, I have a mini helmet with Jamar Chase's autograph on it. So
nice. I like that. I gotta get some mini helmets for my son. I think he'd fall in love with that. The only problem is it's going to start costing me like what, $40 every time I want to buy one of those, Dom? How much do those things cost nowadays?
About there.
Okay. Artie is saying, I hope offensive lineman for Texas State, Nash Jones, gets a chance at a camp. Dominic, seen him play in bowls, etc. I think he has the physical and mental side of the game down. Trust me, his name is in the notes for good reason. Because not only is he a good player on the field, but it sounds like he's a big team guy. Everybody on Texas State's roster made mention of him whenever we had everybody. We had 2 players on, Ishmael Mahdi and I'm going blank on the other guy's name right now. Cup. They both made mention of Nash just being an awesome guy, funny guy, locker room guy, a guy everybody loves, a guy who unfortunately got hurt, but then scores a big touchdown in the bowl game when they put him in the HVAC position. I think that's what it was, or they throw to him. I can't remember, but anyway, they had a play lined up for him with him in the backfield. It was awesome. Team went nuts when he scored on that, so that was really cool to see. Neil saying Heath Schuler, big strong arm, but Sitka said he couldn't read defense. Yeah, going back to that quarterback talk there, absolutely important to read a defense. Honestly, colleges, you got to be looking at this the same way anymore. I mean, I saw a kid the other day on Instagram showing his playbooks for I think it was for Southern Miss. He had transferred out. He's now at Youngstown State. He was showing his Southern Miss playbooks. There was 4 massive binders of information he had to possess up here. I don't know. These guys think you can just come in and rely on speed and talent. That ain't just that, right?
Nope. There's a mental aspect to it for sure.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, even if you look at what's his name from Jay Cutler from Vanderbilt, the knock on him was that he was book smart, but he got between the sidelines and went kind of deer in headlights.
Well, you could tell that from watching him play. Yeah, it's crazy. Like you either have one or the other. I feel like it's rare that you really have a bunch of guys that can possess both. But if you have a good mix, right? I think like Lamar Jackson seems to be a guy who has a pretty good mix of both the mental and the physical side of things. I think maybe the team around him just needs a little bit of help. We've got a guy that we're going to talk about here in a second who's going to get out there and help him. So let's jump into that now. Talking about the Sun Belt to the NFL, recent history. There's a lot more history, but as we know, as Sun Belt fans overall, this conference has changed quite a bit over these last few years. So I focused on the more recent history to kind of get a better feel for what we've seen. In 2021, we had just 4 players drafted. In 22, 6 players drafted. So we're going up, good increase there. In 2023, there was a conference record 9 players drafted from the Sun Belt. And in 2024, just last year, we saw 6 players drafted. So it went back down a little bit, but for a mid-major or G5 conference, whatever people want to label it as, I think those numbers are fairly good. I don't know, Dominic, if you know off the top of your head how that compares to like the American or anything like that. I didn't bring those numbers up necessarily, but I know for some.
I couldn't quote it off the top of my head, at least.
Gotcha.
But a lot of it, I mean, too, is based on who's coming out. If you have a lot of young teams, they're not going to necessarily be draft ready or draft eligible. So it's going to factor in on who gets drafted or how many players from a conference get drafted.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a very good point. There's a couple comments going back and forth about some stuff. Michael said he just seen the Saints for the first time with Drew Brees and just got hooked. So that's the explanation on why he's got the Saints as a team of one of his favorites. Has the Sun Belt ever had a first-round player in the draft? Let's see. I will say out of these last 4 seasons that we've taken a look at here specifically, the highest pick was in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
So that tells you a little bit about how difficult it is and how exciting it is that Mike Green could very likely be a first-round draft pick. I do believe we've had a first-round draft pick before, but Mike Green has a great chance to be the highest draft pick from the Sun Belt Conference and definitely the highest draft pick from the new look Sun Belt Conference. Again, some people also, and Dominic, I can get your thoughts on this too. When you look back in time, like Marshall's now a Sun Belt team, but when Randy Moss played for them, obviously they were not. So
Correct.
Do you now look at like Randy Moss was, not obviously drafted in a Sun Belt at the time, but do you give credit back to that, or is that not a thing for you?
Not so much. I mean, I mean, obviously he gets credit for the school, but I would look at it as more school accomplishment than the conference accomplishment.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, especially recently with all the conference realignments, it's more school specific than conference specific at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think you can sit there and say like Randy Moss was the highest draft pick or whoever it was that, other schools. I don't know the history that was far beyond when I had paid attention to some of these schools. But yeah, I mean, you don't get credit now for someone that was drafted while they played for a different conference, even if they are in the program. But like you said, program gets credit for it. That's great. Like I said, over the past 4 years, the highest draft pick that we had was Jalen Tolbert from South Alabama, who ended up on Ben's favorite team, the Cowgirls, in round 3, pick number 88. So it looks and sounds like Mike Green will certainly be beating that pick number and that round. But we will see if he makes it into that first or sneaks into the second.
Yeah.
I guess
Does he beat DeMarcus Ware, though, like Warren just mentioned?
Yeah, DeMarcus was 11th. Okay, so yeah, that was I have him on the next thing. What round was likely drafted in? I have him listed here. He was drafted in the 4th round, pick number 139 by the Ravens. And yeah, he is on the graphic as we're looking at it here. Another couple notables in 2021. The highest pick was Shamar Jean Charles from App State, went to the Packers, round 5, pick number 178. We talked about 2022's pick with Jalen Tolbert. In 2023, Nick Salverdee from ODU, ends up a Saint. Round 4, pick number 103. And in 2024, Marshall fans will be happy to hear Rasheen Ali gets drafted from the Herd to the Ravens and round 5, pick number 165. So over the last 4 years, the Sun Belt selections have mostly occurred in the 5th to 6th round range. Mm-hmm. So this is telling you how special Mike Green is and what Marshall's about to see, and their fans are, and some lucky NFL team is going to have with him there. And they averaged a pick number of 201. So again, a lot of late round draft picks, but we do have some guys getting drafted over those last 4 years. Louisiana has put 5 players in, App State 4, Troy, Coastal, South Alabama, and ODU all put in 3 players. Marshall puts in 2, Georgia State and Southern Miss put 1 player in a piece. So if you want to have any bragging points, Cajun fans, there's your statistic. You've put the most guys into the NFL in this kind of new look Sun Belt conference that we have now. So there it is. There's that. Let's talk about the notable alums. Why are we pushing this out? Why does the Sun Belt matter? Well, look at some of these big names on screen right now. Charles Peanut Tillman came from Louisiana. Again, not necessarily drafted as a Sun Belt player. Actually, I don't know. I guess Louisiana may have been a Sun Belt team at that point in time. I'd have to go look it up exactly. But these all these other ones I believe were. But yeah, it's called a peanut punch for a reason, Dom, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Help make it famous. Leotis McClellan is a former Troy Trojan. What was it?
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. It's too many C's and K's all in the same area, which is funny because we have C's and K's in our name, Dom. Well, you don't have any K's, I guess. I'm the one with a K. You're the one without. Gerald Everett, who is a massive tight end, came out of South Alabama, now playing for the Rams. Obviously, probably the most famous one recently. I'm not going to say he's more famous than DeMarcus Ware. That's the number one here. Well, I don't know. You could put up Charles Tillman and DeMarcus Ware, but I probably lean towards DeMarcus. I don't know about you, Dom. What would you lean to there?
I mean, both are notable, but I mean, you got to give Ware the nod with the Hall of Fame as well. You know? Yeah,
that's definitely going to push him over the edge. Is there any chance Tillman ends up in the Hall of Fame? Was he kind of that good of a career? Or I haven't heard the name, so that's why I'm asking.
There's always a chance, but at the same time, it's like, would you put him in over? Who would you put him in over? You know.
True. It's a good point. I mean,
like, he was notable for the Bears, and I loved him as a player. Trust me, but I don't know if he had necessarily that career to put him into the Hall.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I mean, off the top of my head, I couldn't say I'd say that he should be, but I didn't know if there was maybe a conversation that had been in the background or not. But yeah,
great player. Committees on their selections. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got a literal defensive move named after you. So, if you don't make the Hall of Fame, that is something that will live on forever, even after you're gone. So it's pretty cool, no matter what. But yeah, DeMarcus Ware, former Troy Trojan, probably the most notable Troy Trojan of all time. Tyler Bass, making it as a kicker from Georgia Southern. We know they have a little bit of a pedigree at the kicking position, as did A-State. It looks like Georgia Southern's kind of taken that over with these kickers here lately, but we'll see if that continues on. There's a couple kickers trying to make the NFL from the Sun Belt, but we'll see if that actually happens. Let's see. Artie Cat's got a comment here. I believe the oldest Sun Belt Conference player in the NFL was Joe Vance, 1931 Brooklyn Dodgers from Texas State Normal School. Southwest Texas State Normal School. He's corrected that. Southwest. Okay. That's the longest name ever for a school. Oh,
that got abbreviated on everything.
I bet so, yeah. I know that they did move on to Southwest Texas, which was SWT, right? That was one that Texas State still does throwback stuff to. So they did at least got rid of the normal school aspect of that. Ben says he forgot J.D. McKissick was on a team, but can't remember. He was on the Seahawks. So there's that. Another note from him, and we'll jump over after the notable alums to talk about why we're really here after, just a little bit of an intro. We finally get to the draft hopefuls. We've talked about a couple names already, but here are a few more of them. To me, these are the guys that have kind of been noted a little bit more often or shown up a little bit more on some of the draft boards. But there's crazy differences, Dom. I mean, how many guys did you say you work with on the magazine or
on the Draft Bible?
Draft Bible. And I'm sure, like, when you saw certain ones of their list, they had vastly different players listed at different spots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I saw through my research as well. Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. Lots of different opinions. I mean, it's not only how good you think the players are, but it's you have to be paying attention to both sides, right? It's not just about the talent and what you think could happen. It's paying attention to what the team needs on the NFL side. I mean, they might be in desperate need of a guy who should be 15 picks lower, but they need him bad, and he ain't going to be around when they get to pick it again, so they have to pick him early. And so people say overvaluing the position or whatnot, but sometimes these guys don't have a choice, and who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's why the teams have their own draft boards, because our team needs are probably going to outweigh talent or best player available in a lot of cases for that reason, because you want to make your team better first and foremost.
Absolutely. Neil's got a question about App State kicker Michael Hughes getting picked in the later rounds. I've got him listed as more of, and pretty much any kicker or punter, I've got them listed as a free agent pickup. Dom, I mean, you've got some experience doing this over the years now.
Yeah, more than likely, it's hard for kickers and punters unless you're that guy from Iowa that got picked by the Bears as a punter, and I think like the fourth round, the same draft that they picked Caleb, or you've got a booming leg like Janikowski. It's going to be hard for you to break into those one of those picks in the 7 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, when your best offensive player is a kicker, that's why Iowa guy got picked a little earlier, right? I mean, he's the biggest offensive weapon they've got. He puts the most points on the board. So,
well, I mean, even as a punter, I mean, like guy from Iowa, he got drafted because he helped the defense a lot more. He's
gotcha.
Booming the ball back and making the other teams drive the field more. That's a weapon for you.
Yeah. Ben has said that Corey Rucker has announced he's returning to A-State. So that makes sense because he was on some draft boards. He wasn't on some draft boards, and I was like, where's this guy rank up? Because he is a physical specimen at the wide receiver position. A-State offensively has some weapons, but maybe not as explosive as they could have been this past season specifically. But they have had some really good games where they put up a bunch of points, like the 70-plus points just 2 seasons ago. So Corey Rucker, a big part of that. If he's coming back to A-State, that's great, especially for the conference, and maybe just to help him further his game before he gets into the NFL. So that, again, that makes sense why he may not be on some other draft boards. He's saying out of all the players on screen, I'd say Bayer has most notable stories. Okay. So Jacob Bayer, a center for A-State as well. There was 2 players from the Red Wolves, and I guess it's just going to go down to 1 now that I thought stand a really good chance to be drafted. And some of that is just a straight numbers game, right? There's not a lot of centers. We'll get to Mel Kiper's big board. I've got all the guys that he's got for the Sun Belt, which is a ton. But as we know, not all the guys on Kiper's big board get picked every year either. So,
well, even with centers, I mean, if you're a center only, as opposed to someone who can play guard or swing out to tackle in an emergency, you're going to have more value than someone that's just playing center for a team.
True.
So that's going to kind of up your value over just a straight center.
Yes, that makes a ton of sense. And I like that because, I mean, you want to be versatile so that you can get as many looks and get as much playing time as you possibly can. So, that's good to know. Jamal Pritchett Man, he was electric this year for South Alabama. I guess Dominic, he's an undersized wide receiver at this point still, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, what is he, like 5'9", 5'10", roughly?
Yeah, I mean, he might be 5'10" if you put big shoes on him. He may be closer to 5'8" than 5'9" even. He's definitely small. He's lightning fast. But when I met him in media days, I was quite a bit bigger than him. Obviously, with the muscle aspect, he's probably just as big as I am. But as far as the stature of the height goes, he's definitely not an imposing guy. But he certainly makes up with that with the speed, which is a big reason why he could see a draft pick because of his return capability, which was off the charts and could be a big tool to have him see field time immediately as either a draft pick or a free agent pickup. But I'd lean towards the possibility of someone taking a late round flyer on him because they want to see what he can do.
If you're going to have the value added of him being able to help on the return, and I looked it up, he was 5'8" on his pro day.
Gotcha. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I would have said definitely 5'8" and 5'9" at best. But yeah, impressive dude, man. He came very professional to the media.
He's been one of the ones that I like to watch. So.
Yeah. Just a good guy to interact with. Another one that was under the radar. We know Mike Green. We've probably talked enough about Mike Green before we even got to this, but he's far and away the best draft prospect, and we've seen why literally with what he did, not only on the field all season long, right? I mean, he led the nation in sacks, and I believe was 2 or 3 for sacks for loss. And it's kind of a weird stat, right? That they're kind of different, but they're both considered sacks in the same sense. Anyway, he was also the one that how close were you to the actual play where he put that guy on his back?
Oh, God. He put Josh Connerly on, or just leveled him. I was probably 10 rows up, probably like a section over from where the drill was.
Nice. So you had a pretty good view. You didn't have to try and see around all those guys on the field level.
Yeah, you still kind of do, because at that point in like the one-on-ones especially, all the team is just huddled around each other themselves. So it's kind of you're, even though you're in the stands, you're still trying to see over them.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's true. You would think they're trying to back people up so everybody could see. Like, why do you have to be literally inches from these guys? Like, why don't you back up so everybody can check it out? But again, I was going to say another guy I really, really loved interacting with at media days was Wycavius Thomas, a defensive tackle from South Alabama. A big dude, a really big dude. Maybe not the tallest, but definitely you can see why he plays D tackle. He's really interested in motorcycles. So he said that was like a really interesting aspect. We talked a little bit about that and how he not only just rides them, he knows how to work on them. But obviously he's kind of put that on hold as the football career takes off. So I really hope to see him make the NFL, even if he's not a drafted player, at least get a flyer as a free agent tryout. I just really like rooting for that kid. I really like talking to him and interacting with him. Jalen White, I did not get to talk to, but a phenomenal talent at the running back position for Georgia Southern. However, not the greatest statistical season for him. So it'll be interesting to see if that might play a part in maybe not getting drafted, but we'll see. He's still kind of up there a little bit in the running back position. Another guy interacted with face-to-face with Jacob Dobbs of James Madison, linebacker. Really, really impressive player from transfers in with the head coach, and he comes in from Holy Cross and then becomes an all Sun Belt player, and easy to see him and spot him on the field as well. As Michael Bias was saying earlier, J.J. Roberts, a ball hawk from Marshall in the defensive backfield, stands a pretty good chance. I started seeing his name here a little bit more recently in the last month or so. So there's some people becoming a little bit more aware, and the player that already noted as well, we talked about a little bit earlier, Nash Jones on the offensive side of the ball. I think he's listed as a offensive tackle? Yeah, a tackle. He's listed as a guard, or at least the one publication I saw him as was a guard. Is he listed as a guard / tackle at this point? Maybe.
Probably. I mean, I'd
like
probably put him. Versatility. I'd probably try him out at tackle.
Yeah, but again, another guy to root for. Easy to root for some of these guys. We've got some notes that we want to get back to as well. App State News saying Michael Hughes, kicker from App State, has received interest from multiple teams, as well as wide receiver Caden Robinson, specifically from the Panthers, which makes sense. Local team, they can probably get guys up there to see them a lot more often, or did get guys to see them up there a lot more often in actual game time action. Neil saying Michael hit 13 for 13 on his pro day and 1 from 63 yards, which is incredibly impressive for those people that have been to Boone and feel the wind, because apparently there was wind that day. So to hit 63 yards outside in the weather, impressive. So hopefully the best for Michael Hughes. But again, hard to break into the draft as a punter or kicker unless you're just absolutely night and day phenomenal.
Well, I mean, even just going to App State News's comment about him receiving interest from or did he say Caden Robinson received interest from the Panthers?
I think he was saying both.
Okay. But that preaches to team needs. I mean, if you have a team like the Panthers that has a whole lot of needs, do you draft a tackle that can help or guard that can help keep your young quarterback upright, or do you draft the kicker?
Right. Let's be honest. Most teams' best scoring potential comes from kickers, right? I mean, they put up a lot of points. There's a reason why you have kickers on your fantasy football teams, folks. They score a lot of points.
Yeah, trust me, I won a few fantasy leagues with Janikowski on my fantasy teams.
There you go. Warren's got a great comment here. With the portal, can a school claim a drafted player for your school? Yeah, it feels like you could just do whatever you want. We quite literally had the first trade in NCAA football so far, as Nico goes to UCLA and Joey goes to Tennessee after that. So obviously another Sun Belt aspect, right? Like, I think in one sense, yeah, it sucks for Joey, but like, let's be honest too. There's probably a ton of people who now know Joey's name who weren't all that familiar beforehand because they didn't necessarily know he was at App State. Maybe they heard a little bit about him at UCLA. Now everybody knows that name because of the saga that's gone on. So hopefully he gets to see the field quite a bit. I'm hoping he's the odds-on starter. Not going to be easy, right? We know the Tennessee program has 4 and 5-star guys come in there at quarterback all the time. So we'll see how he does going in there to compete. But I know a lot of App State folks are very confident that Joey could go in there and win the starting job. So it'll be interesting to see if he does do that. Ben saying Bear torn an ACL and fought hard to return to play for the Red Wolves. He started this season after having ACL surgery just 5 months before. So, yeah, absolutely. And another name that I have when we get to the next list with the free agents, Courtney Jackson, who's drawn interest from quite a few NFL teams as well. Artie Cat, before we get to the free agent stuff, he says he's a huge CFL fan as well. Dominic, what's your opinion of the CFL? Different type of football, but I like the original rules. Several Sunbelt players always on CFL roster, and Warren Moon and Doug Flutie made it to the NFL.
I don't watch the CFL as often as I feel like I should, to be honest. My understanding is that it's a much quicker game than the NFL. And I've heard great things about it. I don't watch it enough to really have a great opinion on it.
Well, Ben's opinion of it is terrible because he says CFL sucks. All right, so I like some of the CFL. I think some of the rules are weird to get adjusted to, right? When you're seeing them, you're like, wait, how did they just do that? How was that able to work or transpire like that? But they do have some weird point totals for certain plays that just aren't seen in our game down here in the States. So we're on the CFL aspect, and Michael brings it up. I was just going to ask you this. What's your thoughts on the UFL? I mean, is this something that you think sticks around? Do you think it's going to go away again? Is it something that you watch personally?
I watch it when I can. I hope, honestly, that it does stick around because it's a great way for those guys that are on the fringe of making NFL rosters or even getting drafted to show that they belong and hone their skills to where they can fit in the NFL world. So I truly hope that it does stick around because I think it would be great for the sport.
Yeah, I think it would be too, but I think they got to do something. To me, you've got to start it. I understand starting it when they do because you want to have these guys complete a season and then have a shot at the next level. So that's important. But the problem I have with it is you're starting this league when like every other sport is at like the apex of interest, right? You've got the Masters for golf, you've got NCAA basketball tournament, you've got the playoffs for the NHL, you've got the playoffs for the NBA. And I feel like that's just too much interest drawn away by all these other sports for the UFL to be successful in the stands and on TV right now. And that's the tough part. And unfortunately, we know that is what needs to happen in order to keep the money coming in, the revenue coming in, to keep the league alive. But I'm like you. I hope it exists. I want it to, but I just don't know if it's going to last with how they've got it structured. Understand the structure. I just, I feel like if we could design it a little bit better, I'd love to. Warren Santez went to Oregon from Troy. We did have that discussion a little bit earlier. Dominic, you've seen some big boards. You've got your own. Where do you think he'll be drafted, or roughly a range of where he could be seen on the draft board?
I'd say he's probably seeing his name called in the high side in the second round, low side in the fourth.
Okay. Pretty big range there, huh?
It's going to depend on where everyone falls, I mean,
true.
You can do your best guess as far as who's going where and when, but trades throw monkey wrenches in, and then there's aspects that you don't even consider. Like if, say the Browns, for instance, if they value like Abdul Carter over Travis Hunter, that causes Travis Hunter to drop. Does that change like a Jacksonville board?
True. Yep. That's a good point. Yeah, and there's so many. That's in one way. I'm like, why do they let people bet on some of these picks? Because there could be background information that's easily shared and then shared even more and all that kind of stuff. But then, like you said, then there's these other aspects where like there's no way anybody could get that information fast enough because it's changing all the time. So it's just kind of crazy. Are you saying the UFL is just so poorly run? All the teams owned by the league thinks it's lame. I do kind of agree with that. I mean, you want to have some. I think part of the appeal of the NFL is like the owner, right? Like you've got people that are really taking
that goes into the finances of it too. It's like that's when you boil everything down, that's the main point of it, that they got to get the finances in order to have long-term sustainability.
Yeah, it's a good point. Former A-State player Jonathan Adams is on the Memphis Showboats and making a great case to be a great pro player. Well, technically he's a pro player, right? I mean, you consider UFL guys pros, right, Dom?
Oh, yeah. No, I would. I mean, they've all got the opportunity to play football for the season and use that to catapult themselves to a bigger league,
Yeah, absolutely. Ari Cat says something that I've been dying on too is concentrate on markets with zero going on, medium markets with smaller venues and MLB type tie-in system, the minors. I agree with that. That's how I thought it was going to be structured. Kind of when they came out, they kind of talked about that and they used it as like an indirect reference. Just totally admit it. And then honestly, to me, like have some of those, maybe not quite as like Savannah Bananas, like crazy rules going away from tradition, but have a few of those, like make it very, very interesting to watch. Do the whole, like, actually, I think they do a little bit of this, like the field goals being different for different lengths. I think the UFL does that, right?
Yeah.
Or is that on extra points?
Or is it like extra points?
I think it's extra points. But I would go all the way. Go for field goals. Yeah. Like, all right, you get 1 point for anything within 20 yards. You get 3 for behind the 20 yard to the 30, or like just. And then like you can have like a bunch of colorful graphics on the screen and be like, oh, like this appeal to the younger audience. Anyway, just do fun stuff that brings the viewers in a little bit more than just the standard traditional football, because you got to have something that makes you stand out and be a little bit different here. All right, so moving back into Sunbelt talk for the NFL draft, Mel Kiper's big board, as most Sunbelt fans are aware, or maybe they're not. But with your ESPN Plus subscription, you get access to Mel Kiper's big board. So if you guys want to go in there and see how this maybe compares to what actually happens starting tomorrow night with the draft, you can do this. So the numbers beside these players' names here are where he has them ranked at that position. This isn't overall, and that's why you're going to see a bunch of numbers in the same
That's
number
a baseball
range.
score?
Is what?
Ethan's comment.
Oh, yeah. Wrong sport. But Marshall is beating Morehead State in baseball 27-15, currently in the top of the ninth. That's a rematch from yesterday when Marshall run ruled them. So I'm not sure. I guess that's I'm not sure how that's not a run rule there, but whatever. It was a home and home midweek series that they're kind of doing there. I don't know. 2 games is not considered a series, I guess. But either way, Marshall taking it to Morehead State, but this time Morehead State putting up a little bit more of a fight. It was a quick game yesterday. It's a little bit longer today. It's going to go the full length, I guess.
Yeah.
So that is a crazy score. That is a football score. A weird football score, but it's still a football score.
Yeah.
Already saying technology lets you broadcast game from Bismarck, North Dakota. Yeah. So they could do all kinds of stuff with getting these UFL teams to sell out. I always like to me, I'm in the triangle area of North Carolina. We've got pro hockey, and that's it. There's nothing else. But they've got a big football stadium for NC State that sits empty for most of the year. Bring a UFL team here. Have that compete with that Charlotte market. There's people over here that would love a pro football team. A lot of people with a lot of money over here. I would say put it in those types of places instead of putting, more football teams in Texas, right? I mean, they've got enough down there, spread it out a little bit more. But anyway,
and they did put that DC team up your way, didn't they?
True. Yeah. And that one's probably the most successful. No, I'm sorry. St. Louis is definitely the most successful, but that one maybe up there at second place. Maybe the beer snake has a lot to do with that. That's one reason to watch their games because they get real competitive with how long they can make that beer snake. So we'll see what happens there. But okay, going back, Kuiper's big board, Sunbelt players only at the quarterback position. He's only got one guy from the Sunbelt listed. At number 30 as a quarterback goes Ben Woolridge, who actually had a pretty great year for the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. So it'll be interesting to see if he stands a shot at getting a free agent signing. I don't think there's going to be 30 quarterbacks taken in the NFL draft, Dominic. I don't know if you think that.
I don't see that happening.
I just don't see that happening. Not saying he's actually the 30th quarterback, obviously, but that's where Kuiper's got him on his big board. Only one running back from the Sun Belt listed, which I thought was very interesting. All the way down at 48th, we've got Chandler Pittman from Southern Miss. So not even one of the bigger names that I've heard throughout much of the season, but a lot of that could be to do with Southern Miss not having a very good football season. But some of the scouts paying attention saw some talent and potential there, and that's why Kuiper's got him on his list. As far as wide receiver goes, he's got Jamal Pritchett there, but he's got him all the way down at number 45. Again, not sure if we see 45 wide receivers taken in the draft. It is a big position need, though.
It's unlikely. It's a deep position, like you said, and it is one of those positions where you're looking at a playmaker. So, I mean, you could see him drafted in a later round as just the sheer value of for Pritchett on a team would factor in,
Yeah, absolutely. At number 77, as far as wide receiver goes, the only other wide receiver listed for the Sun Belt is Landon Parker. Why is that noteworthy? Well, Landon Parker at his pro day for Troy would have run the best 3-cone time at the combine at 6.64 seconds. So an interesting player who I think sometimes those measurables are just enough to get you an outside look at a free agent deal. So it'll be interesting to see where Landon Parker could end up there with that. At number 22, tight end. I don't even know how many tight ends are taken every year, but it's probably not even more than 10. I don't know. I would think 10 tight ends is a lot. So
it depends, and that's going to be starting on that position where you're going to want versatility, whether they can be like a blocker in line or line up in the slot too,
Yeah. Well, that tight end, DJ Thomas Jones from South Alabama, I've tried to kind of, as I can, color code these, by the way. If you're seeing the colors and wondering what the hell's going on with the color scheme, the color scheme was supposed to kind of match the school as best as possible. So that is the reasoning for that. Number 19, as far as a fullback or H-back position goes, is Pat Conroy from ODU. Again, another position group that you're not going to see 19 guys taken of. But again,
you don't see 19 fullbacks in the NFL.
That's true too. That's a really, really good point. You just don't see that many. So we'll have to see how that goes for him. But hey, I would say that might be enough to get you a free agent look because you could get on, a camp and see what happens and maybe stick around even longer. Number 40 for offensive guard is Mekhi Butler from A-State. I don't know. Again, I don't know if they're seeing 40 guards taken or not, but we'll see. The one that's definitely going to get drafted, it's just going to be
a question of
where is center Jacob Bayer. I think that one's pretty obvious there. And guess who's shown up? Look who's made his arrival.
There we are.
What's up, guys? How are y'all?
All right. How you doing,
man? The question is, how are you?
Yeah, dude. It got bad for a second. I mean, it's still a little bit of blood, but it got bad for a little while. I was
we were going to tell you to Ronnie Lott it and just cut it off and get over here.
Yeah, listen, bro. I sent you the picture.
Yeah,
half of the fingernail is just gone. It's just completely gone.
And this is a guy who routinely is cutting and slicing all kinds of meat and everything else, and you cut it on a what?
So I got this new it's called a mandolin. I got a new slicer.
Okay.
And I was cutting cucumbers tonight, of all things, and just slicing them because I was gonna make some pickled cucumbers. Anyway, I was like, this is cool. And then my son is like, hey, Dad, can I use that? I was like, no, because it's very sharp. And as soon as I said sharp, fingernail was in with the cucumbers.
Oh, no.
And then I shook my, immediately blood was gushing. I shook my hand and there's blood all over my kitchen.
Oof.
So, yeah, my wife came out. She was in the shower. She came out in the towel and started wiping the kitchen down. I held that on paper towels and whatnot for probably 30 minutes. I guess that's when I texted you and I was like, this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to go somewhere. So went across the street to Harris Teeter to get some skin glue. That didn't work. And then went to, where was it? CVS and got the powdered blood stop stuff. It's like a clotting agent. So got that and then finally got the blood to stop. And here we are. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a little blood. I don't know if you guys can see it. There's still a little blood coming through.
But they're going to take the stream down. Take that off. It's graphic content. Come on, man. No.
I know, right? It's still
no lightheadedness, no wooziness. You're good there.
No. I'm good. I don't think I lost that much blood. I think it was, maybe a couple teaspoons.
You're not the kind of guy who's gets just looking at it and it gets to you.
Oh no. Yeah, no.
All right,
and that was the case. It'd be tough to be a football player.
That's true. That's true.
There's a lot of blood on that sideline.
Artie Cat saying, TJ, I got a quarter of my thumb cut off. It hurts like hell even today. Nerve endings. I feel your pain. Oh.
Yeah, I would never have thought an uncovered finger, from a fingernail not being there, was that much pain. When it's exposed to air.
Yeah.
It's what? Because the first 15 seconds, I was like, oh no, this is fine, not a big deal. And then I guess my brain processed that it was my fingernail was gone.
The shocker probably wore off and.
Oh my God, bro! I was like, this can't happen. I can't live life like this. I don't know what I don't know what I'm gonna do, but this is not it. So so here we are. So
yeah. Well, I don't know how long we're gonna go for, but we didn't finish, so you still got stuff to talk about, man. So
no, I didn't. I figured you guys were close to being done. I just wanted to at least come on, show face because I was supposed to be on. So and then also it's nice to see the Phenom sponsorship in the background, so that's cool.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Because I was introducing Dom and talking about what was going on with you, I didn't even get to that. So at the top of the screen for those watching the video aspect, we have the Phenom Elite logo. If you are unfamiliar with who they are a football company that supplies mostly gloves and cleats. That's kind of what they're known for. That's their bread and butter. And they have some really, really cool ones. If you are a fan of any Batman, I think they have some Marvel things. They've got SpongeBob.
Joker's in there.
Joker's in there. Yeah, they've got the gloves where you cover your face and it completes the face of the character.
Mm-hmm.
So you can put it in front of you. I mean, it's just really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
We are now aligned with Phenom Elite. We will be doing a lot of cool stuff along the way with them. Can't wait to see how that continues to evolve down the road here. But yeah, be on the lookout for a discount code from us for those of you who have kids or know kids that you want to buy presents for, because they have some of the coolest gloves and cleats you've ever seen. Trust me on that. They've got other stuff coming. We may, evolve this sponsorship into baseball and basketball. So just don't know all the dynamics of how that goes just yet, but we're starting with the football aspect and leaning heavily with the Phenom Elite. First of all, it's a great name, right? I think it's an awesome name for a company.
Yeah.
So
yeah, my son might be getting some Phenom cleats here soon.
Yeah. We'll have a code for you, TJ. So we can definitely hook it up for that. Ethan's given us a little score update on the baseball game. It's now 30-15.
Good God, who's playing who?
It's Marshall playing Morehead State.
Good God.
Yeah.
They put the first score up, and I was like, "That's baseball."
Yeah. I don't know what's going on there. They only played 7 innings yesterday. It was a quick game on and over. Now today they just want to score touchdowns, I guess.
I guess so. Apparently.
Yeah. Michael's saying that he's seen the UFL is interested in Raleigh. Well, I hope they do, because that's something that I'd probably be interested in.
I would absolutely go to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would love to see pro football up close for hopefully a cheaper price than I could to go see it down in Charlotte, because that would be cool. Artie says the USFL would have worked, but Trump bought it and wrecked it to sue the NFL.
Yeah.
That one's gone.
Imagine that. Imagine a president being spiteful. I guess he wasn't back then.
Yeah, I think it was just another failed business model of his. So.
Yeah.
Like,
there's that.
8 of them. But anyway, this isn't a show about politics.
No, we'll stay away from that, other than a random joke here or there.
We'll shut up the dribble.
I'm not a fan of all of it all around. Let's just stick to the sports aspect. Ben saying that ESPN2, there's a Sports Center special on the NFL Nation mock draft. Yeah, you could watch. You can find all kinds of those things.
Oh yeah,
on there now. Oh, and also Ben says, now that you're on, TJ, we can talk some more smack about the Cowgirls.
See, listen, look, man. I'm not in any mental state to even defend the Cowboys right now. I will say this: Dak lost 33 pounds. I don't know what that's worth, but which also begs the question: if he lost 33 pounds, why did he have 33 pounds to lose?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's like, was he 250? And that's a serious question. Like,
right?
Was he? Because he's only 6'3". I mean, Cam Newton, for reference, was 6'6", 250.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So if Dak Prescott was 6'3", 250, which he had to at least have been, why would he be that big?
Yeah, it's a good point. Is Dak washed? Do you believe that?
Well, okay. Define washed, because washed would mean that he would have to have been good at one point. So I don't think Dak is. Let me rephrase now. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I just think he's average. Like, he's not top 10, but he's not bottom 10 either, right? He's like in that sort of middle of the pack. Like, he won't lose you the game. He just is not going to win you the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I see that. Yeah, it makes sense.
So he's like a better version, more mobile version of Kirk Cousins. Like, he won't be the reason you win the game, but he won't be the reason you lose the game either.
Gotcha.
So, but we also can't stop a nosebleed. So there's that. He was good his first 2 years. No, he wasn't good his first 2 years. His offensive line was good his first 2 years, and Zeke was a premier running back. It's easy to be good when everything's play action.
That's a good point.
Play action. And then also, not only is it play action, but then you have Dez Bryant, who set the NFL record for touchdowns in the season. So, 19 or 21 touchdowns by a receiver is ungodly.
Yes,
So.
it is. Yes, it is.
So, and that's a lot of that too. Is like we're on the 8-yard line. Let's throw a fade to Des Bryant.
Not a
The
bad.
three of us could do it.
Yeah, not a bad play call at all. Danny Don Meredith. He's no Danny Don Meredith. Anyone got a reference for that? Or is that?
I don't. How old do we have to be to know who that is?
Yeah.
That was like before Monday Night Football.
Oh, okay.
was that leather helmets?
Yeah, might have been. Oh man. All right. Well, now that you're here, TJ, we'll jump back in. So we're actually at a good spot, even though we're closer to the end. But this is Kuiper's big board. These are all the Sun Belt players that are listed on his big board, which we know they don't all get drafted. And these are the numbers beside these names are where he's got them ranked at that position.
At the position.
So when you see guys in the 40s and 50s and 60s, the likelihood isn't really there. But, some people could be using that for free agency stuff. So, also, I guess before we get into the list again, I think we're getting over to that second side of this list. But TJ, you got to try out for NFL teams. You went through a pro day. Tell us a little bit about the aspect of not getting drafted, but being able to talk to these teams and maybe being able to work out a deal where you kind of get what you want more than if you were drafted as a late round pick anyway.
Yeah. So there's always this notion, and some people dispute it. Some people are for it, that it's better to go, if you're in the 6th or 7th round, it's almost better to go undrafted because you have the power to negotiate your deal. And also you have the power to pick where you want to go play football. So there's that. I always maintain that if you can get drafted, get drafted. It doesn't matter to what team because at that point you're just wanting to get in the dance. But in terms of the process, it's always going to be, for me, one of the most fun things and also most stressful things I've ever done. Obviously, you've got your pro day. You've got to try and run, the fastest 40 time you've ever run in your life, as if that's a measure of how good you can be on the football field. Because we all know, having played football, that speed on a 40-yard dash doesn't always translate to game speed. So, for example, I think my time was a 4.51. As a slot guy, I wasn't very fast linear, but I was super quick. So it wasn't indicative of what I was able to do on the field. So I say all that to say the process itself, it's fun, it's rewarding. I remember I went to North Carolina's pro day as well, and I interviewed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I interviewed with the Jets, interviewed with a couple of the other scouts that were there. And it's weird too, because they measure your hand size, and it's all kind of, they measure your feet, and then they do kind of a bend test of test your flexibility, how thick your hamstrings are. It's almost, you're getting prodded and poked on at every level. So it was fun, stressful for sure, but I was in the best shape of my life during that time. It was, I literally have not been more chiseled, more ripped, or as fast or as anything than I'd ever been at that particular moment. So it was fun. I'd go back and do it again. I wish I had that body. 192 pounds. Well, no, at that point I was 189 pounds, 189. And I did the 225 rep test 17 times. Dang. And jumped a 38-inch vertical. That was the best day of my life.
Okay, so for comparison, JMU was really good about publishing some of their pro day stuff. You said 38-inch vertical?
38-inch vertical, 16 or 17 reps on the 225 rep.
Is it still the 225 now? Is that same weight?
Yeah. Yes, it's still the same weight. You can elect to do 185 if you're not a 225. For certain positions, it's overrated. But if you're offensive lineman, defensive lineman, linebacker, tight end, that was that was very indicative of what you're getting. Because too, it's about explosiveness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that push is going to let us know, how explosive you can be and for how long you can be that explosive throughout a football game. So, but for a wide receiver, for instance, Randy Moss did 185 5 times.
So, interesting.
So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, first of all, Artie says you were ready for the bodybuilder pose.
And listen, at that point, I might have been, man. I was absolutely chiseled. I mean, I was, as Shannon Sharp would say, cut up like newspaper. Of course, we don't want to say anything that Shannon Sharp would say right now.
I was going to say, you can want to touch that one with a 10-foot pole, man. But his earlier reference came from a King of Hill episode, but also the guys in the Cowboys Ring of Honor with the Dandy Don Meredith.
He was actually, I think he was one of the first announcers for Monday Night Football. So it was quite a while ago.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. Well, TJ, you got beasted by these guys at JMU with the bench press. However, most of them, actually none of them wide receivers. Chris Fitzgerald had 31 reps. Linebacker Jacob Dobbs, who's on this list, he's number 38 linebacker listed on Mel Kiper's big board, 25 reps, and Ray Scott also with 25 reps over there.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Well, Jacob Dobbs is a big dude.
Well, yeah, but if you do 225, essentially if you can do it more than 15 times, you're in the top 3% of the world. But if you can do it 25 times, there's probably less than 0.5% of the entire world that can do that. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So what percentage of the world is it if he can do it 42 times, like I think Thor Griffin did for Louisville?
I don't even know the number for that. 0.0003 maybe.
Yeah, that's insane, man. That's insanity. You said vertical jump was 38 inches?
Mm-hmm.
It's also crazy that you remember this stuff. I mean, I guess you do because, that it's all that matters in that time. So I still
remember my rushing yards from high school as a quarterback.
There you go. Well, I mean, you were number one in the state, right?
Yeah.
There you go. That's one reason to remember that one. Definitely hold on to that. Terrence Spence, who's also on this list as a quarterback, number 60, unfortunately. But here's why he's on the list. His vertical jump, 40 inches. He had one hell of a game when they played UNC here in Chapel Hill.
He had a couple interceptions, didn't he?
I think he had 2 interceptions and one for a touchdown, I believe. If off the top of my head, if I can remember that correctly, I think so. Jacob Dobbs, the guy who benched 25 times, also had a vertical of 39.5.
That's insanity. How big is he? What is he? 230? 240?
Let's go back here. You can get a look at him here. He's the one here by the purple name, Jacob Dobbs.
Let's see.
He's not extremely tall. I've seen him face to face and talked to him face to face. But he's definitely
5'11",
big.
233.
Okay.
You said what now?
Good size.
5'11", 233.
5'11", 233. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's probably why he's a 38th linebacker is because he's 5'11", but 233 is really good size for somebody. You can tell that type of build is very stout. Nobody's running him over. He's got low center of gravity, and he's an athlete. I mean, if he's jumping 38 inches, or what did you say, 40 inches?
His was 39.5.
Yeah, I mean, 5'11", 233, 39.5-inch vertical, and 25 reps of 225. He'd have to be not good at football to not make a camp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, to note, he is not listed in the 40-yard dash or 3-cone drill. So either he didn't test as well as the other guys, which would make sense, right? He's a linebacker.
Sure.
You're going up against wide receivers and running backs that are doing these other drills probably faster than you. Terrence Spence did show up in the 3-cone drill. Dobbs' 39.5-inch vertical is second for linebackers that participated in the 2025 NFL Combine. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean that's explosive, right? Like that, your ability to jump vertically and broad jump as well. That's a testament to how explosive you are as an athlete. So I'd be surprised if he doesn't get at least brought into a camp.
I would too. When I spoke to him, I thought he came from like a military background. He was very regimented. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Nice to meet you. Very just commanded the room, even as being the one who was being interviewed. I like that guy though. I like that kid. I got to do that with him face to face. I've seen interviews with him with the other reporters up there in Harrisonburg after or before games or after practice. He's cutting up, having fun. So he's got that side of him too. Seems like just a great locker room guy. So I hope the best for Jacob Dobbs. I really hope he gets drafted. That would be awesome. Even if not, then he at least stands a really good shot, I think, of being a free agent pickup there as well. Artie Cat says at 7 foot tall, 0 inches, Richard Sly is the tallest player in professional American football history. I did not know that there was any 7-footers that played football.
I didn't either. I knew there was Ed Too Tall Jones who played for the Cowboys. He was 6'7".
Yeah.
Or 6'8".
There's a couple guys on the line that are 6'6", 6'7" now.
I mean, what position can you play?
Yeah, that'd be my question. It's like, where would you line them up?
Yeah, I mean, because here's the thing: like, if I'm on short yardage situation, then I'm just going to throw the ball up because nobody's jumping 7 feet in the air or out jumping a 7-footer just off the ground. That's that position. But also, if you try him at defensive end, he will not have any knees by the third quarter.
No, he can't get out of that position.
Like he'd have to be straight from a body mass perspective that high, or being that tall.
Yeah. Well, and two, like I said, if a linebacker or if a running back is coming to block him, he's immediately going to chop him down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He won't have knees. Like his knees will be gone.
Yeah. And they're already weak. At 7 foot tall, none of those guys are like
100%.
Defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just put him at quarterback and hope that he has an arm so he can throw it downfield. He sees over everyone on the line, no problem, right?
He'd make a hell of a target for somebody to hit. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. He did play defensive tackle, apparently. Wow.
And
my guess is he didn't play very many years. That's my guess.
I would imagine not. Not.
Oh, man. All right. Well, number 2, an outside linebacker is Mike Green. Well, shock, right? I guess. Technically, the difference between where they're listed here is Jacob Dobbs was listed as an off-ball linebacker, while Mike Green is listed as an outside linebacker. However, Mike Green is listed as an edge player for most other people in this draft. So I don't know if Kuiper's got some just different reasoning why he's listed him, because he had edge, but he didn't have him listed as an edge. So he has him listed as an outside linebacker. Is there, I don't know, Dom, is there anything you've heard about him being, a flex player on the defense like that?
I mean, depending on scheme, if they're going to, it would depend on the scheme, really,
Well, and to your point, it's kind of like a Micah Parsons situation, right?
Okay.
And what's the other kid out of Penn State that's getting drafted?
Carter.
Abdul Carter. It's kind of like that situation, right? I mean, I've got him, his stats here. He's 6'4", 248. So he's a big kid at defensive end, right? I mean, for reference, I think, oh God, what's his name? Used to play for the Bills last year. Defensive end, 40. I'm looking right at him.
Oh,
Miller.
Yeah, Von Miller. Von Miller is 6'3", 6'4", and he's only 240 pounds at defensive end. So it would, like you said, to your point, it would depend on the scheme that he's in. But my guess would be he'd be hand in the dirt defensive end. If I at 250, 6'4", unless he's gonna lose some weight, which I doubt, that's probably gonna be hand in the dirt type of player.
Yeah, which is where he seems to have excelled, right? Was his hand in the dirt there on the play where he put the guy on his backside? Yeah.
He's been in the dirt all year, or was all year last year.
True. Yeah, I like that stance, man. It's just, I mean, even some of the pictures that you can find most easily online are his celebrations off one knee. Because he's just been there, right there at that low position. Artie Cat is saying the 7-footer did only play 1 year, 1967. So not surprising there.
That explains it.
Yep.
It does. Number 39, as far as cornerbacks are concerned, is Carlin Vigors from ULM. So the only ULM player I think we've seen on the board at all. But we do have one listed for possible free agent pickup after this. We've talked a little bit about Terrence Spence. There he is, the number 60th rated cornerback, unfortunately, on Kuiper's big board. But again, those measurables may get him some looks. Number 25, safety, J.J. Roberts, outside shot, and maybe getting drafted there with those numbers the way they are. Jaden Viason at number 36 for South Alabama, and Kenyatta Watson, the second. Number 48, as far as safeties are concerned, I believe Kenyatta was at Georgia State. There it is.
Okay.
So those are our most hopeful knock on wood, cross your fingers a little bit on a lot of that because of the numbers and how far down they do find themselves in those position groups. But again, that's just one person's opinion. Doesn't mean that's where everybody's got them. So we could see some movement there. Also, he's given us the tallest player. Now he's given us the shortest player who stood at just 5'1" tall, but that was back in 1929. So yeah, you're not going to see a 5'1" guy in the NFL anymore. You probably wouldn't make it through a game.
Yeah, he's
Well, I mean, how tall is Kyler?
Who?
Kyler Murray.
5'10".
Yeah.
He's listed at 5'10". I bet he's like 5'9".
Yeah, that's
probably
true.
Because Russell
Bridget's
Wilson
size.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. All right, so I didn't have some undrafted guys. Now, I'm not saying they will go undrafted, but I'm leaning towards they're not on Kuiper's big board. You maybe not have seen their name in as many lists, but some guys who put up some either impressive numbers or at the first name here, Caden Robinson coming off an injury. I think Caden Robinson would have stood a much better chance of getting drafted had he not ended the season on the injury list and been working back from that. So that's an unfortunate thing. But kind of as TJ alluded to a second ago, there are the people that think, maybe he kind of gets the position he wants by putting himself as an undrafted guy instead of getting a late round draft pick and gets to maybe play for a team he'd rather play for type of situation. So We'll see how that works out.
Mm-hmm.
Running back, Amani Marshall. Dominic, any further notes you had on him? Just something you remember specifically or something that stood out when you saw him in person?
I was just impressed with just his explosiveness. He had a good field vision and was able to just explode and find the right hole to just show out and show speed.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, he's a big guy. I remember when TJ, I don't know if you saw this picture, when Marshall came onto the team a couple years ago, I guess it's 2 or 3 seasons ago now, he was pictured alongside of a lot of the guys on the offensive side of the ball, right? They went to the, was it Trash Can Falls? Is that what it's called? Where all the players jump off the waterfall? I don't know if that was a ritual when you were in school, TJ, but I think that's something. No? Okay. I think it's something they all do now. But anyway, I'm like, wow,
who's that? Jump off the waterfall?
Yeah, they jump off the top of the waterfall. I think it's called Trash Can Falls or something like that. I don't know.
We didn't
do that.
No.
Okay.
No. And Marshall did hit, I think, like 32 inches on the vertical.
Did he?
Yeah, he hit 32 inches on the vertical and 10 on the broad jump.
Okay. The 10 on the broad jump's really impressive. I think, TJ, you remember your broad?
9. I think it was 9. It was pretty average, like 9-10, 9-11, somewhere in there. I remember Dexter Jackson.
So 10's not amazing.
Yeah, I remember Dexter's being like almost like 11 and some change.
Jeez. That's crazy. He could probably still hit over 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he was listed. Anyway, going back to that story, he was pictured alongside like the offensive lineman, and he was almost up top physically as big as they were for App State, which was just crazy. I was like, there you go. There's a difference of a power program player coming into a G5 team. I guess we've talked a little bit about Michael Hughes, the kicker for App State, and what he was able to do on pro day, going 13 for 13 with the 63-yarder, as Neil alluded to earlier. A name that I heard a lot more about while he was playing. I didn't hear as much this year, so not quite sure where he fits in on the undrafted aspect, but wide receiver Malik Hornsby for A-State, had some stuff in the back ground in years past where he stood out more than recent times, but we'll see what chance he's got. Running back for A-State as well, Zach Wallace, had some really good games for them. And then a linebacker who I got to talk to down at Media Days as well, Charles Willix, I guess is maybe how you pronounce that. And then we've got Michael Bias chiming in as I've got Ethan Payne over on the other side of the screen here as a running back from Marshall. He's kind of like that, I don't know, Mike Allstott type of guy. Like, he's not going to be real fancy with how he runs, but he's going to just plow right through you.
Sometimes those are the best yards.
Yeah,
true. Like, you don't need to make anything fancy. Just go right up the gut with it. Offensive lineman Bryson Broadway from Georgia Southern. Also from Georgia Southern, wide receiver Jerman Burgess Jr. JMU tight end Taylor Thompson had a couple really good games. He's got a pretty good size to him for a tight end, and he's got great hands. A couple of his highlight reel catches, I think at least one of them ended up on ESPN's top 10. So a guy I think has a chance as an undrafted free agent there. Wide receiver Omarion Dolson from JMU as well. Again, Ethan Payne from Marshall. Wide receiver Lance. I butchered this last name because it's Cajun down there, so it looks like almost like legendary, but that's not how it's pronounced.
Legendre.
But yeah, I think he's got a good chance. Probably the top pick that I'd make there for the Cajuns. And then we have a little bit less. Again, these are not all the names. I just kind of tried to grab the ones I saw a little bit more of than others. But quarterback Chandler Fields, also from the Cajuns, maybe, possibly. Linebacker Brandon Jackson, Jeremiah Webb, wide receiver from South Alabama. Defensive lineman Maurice Strong Jr., linebacker Courtney McBride Jr. That was the one that Ben gave the shout out to earlier, also from A-State, and wide receiver Tyrone Howell from ULM. They didn't have quite the downfield presence that they probably wanted to this year. They're much more of a running team, but we'll see if Tyrone Howell ends up anywhere this offseason, I guess. But that's it. That's my notes as far as players to look at, hope for, or think has got any real shot or opportunity. I did have one question that I really did want to ask you, TJ.
Sure.
You did some interviews for some teams. Did any of them ask you this way outlandish, out of line question that would not fly in today's day and age of interview questions?
So no weird questions. However, there were so it was this one team, and I won't disclose, but had some random picture of me at a house back in my neighborhood, hometown. That was fairly well known for less than savory activities. I'll just put it that way. And they were like, are you friends with these guys? What were you doing at that house? You don't live there, blah, blah. And I'm like, first of all, how do you even know that I was there? Like, what happened? Like, why do you know this information? So that was weird. But nothing strange in the sense of, like, I know there's some instances. I know Des Bryant was asked a question about his mom and about, I don't know if it was drugs or something. I can't remember, but like there's been some outlandish questions that I've heard, but none were asked to me.
Already cast that they had Dominic and Dominic watching you.
Somebody was watching me, that's for sure.
You missed his reference earlier. He says having Dominic and Dominic sounds like an 80s sitcom investigating.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what he says earlier, joke. But he also brings up another great point. Joey Hobart, who was a highlight machine at Texas State and also good on the special teams, like he said, with the return game. I just didn't see his name popping up as much as maybe I should have to list him. But, yeah, I would love to see him get an opportunity because probably the best hands in the Sun Belt with what he's done with some of those catches. And if you freeze frame them, you're like, how is that even humanly possible? At least one of them looked just like the what's the guy that played the Giants and did Odell Beckham Jr.?
Oh yeah, I thought you were going to say David Tyree.
Oh, that one too. He probably, I don't know if he pinned it to his helmet, but he had one where it's like he's reaching behind him and somehow catching it. You know he can't even see the ball. Yeah, I would love to see a couple guys. Like I said, they're not all listed here.
Sure.
I could have just do like 5 pages of names, but I try to just pick out some of the ones I had seen a little bit more of or were listed clearly on their pro day stuff. I'm just surprised nowadays with the pro day that some of these lists of names were not better. And some of them, like I said, were non-existent. Like ULM didn't list anything for their pro day, just said they had one. I think ODU's pro day was behind a paywall when I tried to access who was there and how they did. I was like,
Some of them. I mean, a lot of times too, teams don't do that if it's just not an impressive pro day, right? Like if they just didn't have any guys that stood out. So
yeah,
like what always got me, at least this year, especially doing like the background and stuff for like the draft Bible, was players would do the vertical jump and all these other jumps, but then not do the 40 because they claimed an injury. I'm like, well, why are you jumping?
Yeah, all of it's explosive.
You know.
Yeah.
Or they just knew they weren't fast.
Yeah.
And there's also Dom, there's also guys that like showed up at the combine and then said they weren't going to run there, but they'd run at the pro day, right? So that's becoming a little bit more prevalent too, right?
So, and the reason for that is, just so you guys are aware, guys get a lot heavier for the pro day because they do height and weight and all of that stuff there. And then, they'll lift and they'll interview and they'll do all that stuff, but they won't run. They won't do anything time because then they lose weight to get faster when it's their when it's their own personal pro day. So
interesting.
Yeah. So guys bulk up. It's just Kyler Murray did it last year, or no, not last year, but the year he was drafted. Kyler Murray showed up. It was like 199 or something like that at the NFL Combine. But he's not 199 right now. Like he might be 185, 190.
Yeah.
Well, heck, I mean, Tua had the same thing.
Yeah, Tua. Yep, Tua.
Level, you know. I mean, he bulked up and got stronger, and then stayed healthy.
Yep.
Loses the weight, and now he gets hurt again.
Should have stayed thick. Sometimes that weight, depending on the position, sometimes it matters.
Yeah. I know it's a good point. Touched on it with Dom earlier, but how do you did you find it more teams were looking at your overall 40 time or just like that 10-yard split?
So for my position, it was the first 10, first 20. And the reason for that is because there was going to be hardly any times playing in the slot that you were ever going to just run for 40 yards. Right. And it very rarely happens, and I guess it's more prevalent now in today's game than it was when I was playing. But there's not a lot of design routes that are going to get you 40 yards wide open or get you running full speed for 40 yards, unless somebody misses a tackle and then you're off running. But there's not a lot of routes that you're going to run other than a go route that's going to take you 40 yards down the field.
Yeah.
So I've always thought 40-yard dash was overrated. I say that because I'm not a 4.3 guy. I think the best I've ever ran was a 4.46. So, I'm not super fast. I'm also not slow, but I was never a blazing speed kind of guy. So if 40 never really mattered that much to me, I just knew that I one-on-one in open space, likelihood of you tackling me was pretty low. That's all I knew.
Yeah, I touched on it being more that 10-yard split that people are looking at for explosiveness and everything. And
it depends on the position that you play, because for sure defensive ends and for sure linebackers and tight ends and positions like that 10-yard split 100% matters. Even for offensive linemen, because you got to think about them getting out on screen passes and stuff like that. So for those kinds of positions, the 10-yard split, 20-yard split, like that matters more because that's what you're going to be doing the most of. But receivers, running backs, and sometimes even quarterbacks, DB, safeties, 40-yard dash, that matters.
Yeah.
Dominic, you want to answer this question for Artie here? Is the mental screening changed since the Hernandez incident among others?
I'd say everything has changed, but yeah, teams are trying to do their best to it's two-sided because I feel like teams are trying to do their best to get every bit of information about the player. But then the players know this too.
Sure.
Right.
They're
getting the coaching to answer questions correctly and maybe not flat out say things, but shade the truth a little bit.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And these guys are coached on how to interview.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's interesting because DJ, I don't know, talk about how much did you get from App when you were going through the process compared to probably what they do nowadays, which is like have a whole class of this type of stuff. Maybe they did it back then too, but I mean, what kind of prep did you get from the school itself, or was it all just on you?
It was all on me. We didn't have any interview prep for, and back then it really wasn't that much of it wasn't a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was. And they did the interviews and they asked the questions, but it wasn't like, hey, here's the things that you need to say. Like that wasn't a part of the training that you got. Now, I will say, when I was down in Atlanta doing my training, I trained with Terrence Mathis, who was a record-setting receiver with the Atlanta Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
So he was kind of like, hey, these are some of the things they're going to ask you. Be prepared to answer it this way. That helped a lot. So it depends on your type of training, but as far as specific to App State, there wasn't really any, because also too, we didn't have a lot of high draft picks before Dexter Jackson, you know what I mean, coming out of App State. So I mean, we had, I think the highest draft pick we had was Dexter Coakley, maybe. Before that
would make sense.
Yeah. I mean, we had some guys go, but as far as like high draft picks, I think Dexter was by far, I think, the highest draft pick other than Dexter Coakley.
We are going back. We were pretty sure now DeMarcus Ware is the highest ever Sun Belt draft pick at number 11. That'd be pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But there's a very decent chance that Green could beat that this year, because a lot of the places I saw him picked, we talked about this with Dom earlier, is number 10 to the Bears. So it'd be interesting if he beats him by one spot. But I've seen anywhere from 7 to 10, so he could fall anywhere there. He could fall out of that top 10. And Dom, you said you were leaning actually that he might be towards the end of the first round in total, right?
I'd say in the teens. I mean, probably anywhere from 13 to 17, I'd say.
Okay.
I mean, while I like the idea of him being the Bears, do the Bears seek protection for Caleb, who, needs to make that jump in year 2?
Yeah, it's a good point.
I stand corrected. Brian Quick was the highest draft pick out of Appalachian State, 33rd overall. So second pick of the second round.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I knew he was picked. I did not know it was that high. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because he was in the league for like 8 years, wasn't
he?
Yeah. Fun fact about Brian Quick, I was at Candlestick Park when he scored his first touchdown as an NFL football player. He was playing for the Rams. So I was actually, my job had me in San Francisco for work, and I had gotten tickets to the game, and just so happened that he had caught a fade route down the right sideline and going away from the visitor side. And that was his first touchdown as an NFL football player. And I was there for it.
Is that a relationship that you had before that? Like you knew him going in, or you guys know?
We were on the same. Okay. Brian Quick and I were on the same. We played Michigan. We beat Michigan together.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I thought there was a gap, but you're right.
Yeah. He was. I am a little older than him. I'm 2 years ahead of him. But we did play remember he played against Michigan as a freshman.
That's right. He actually, unsung hero because he was the one that blocked the first field goal that nobody remembered.
Yep. He made up for the drop touchdown pass. Remember?
Yep.
By blocking that field goal.
Yeah.
He was a freshman at the time when I was
We'll still give him a little jab about that Montana grab he should have had, but that's fine.
Yeah, it happens.
It's
snow. We talk a lot there on social media. He's
nice. Where's he at these days?
I think he's coming back to North Carolina, or excuse me, to South Carolina, but I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Artie's making a good point here. Seems it's a shame that these schools can't utilize their media students, former pro alums, etc. All players could benefit from something similar, even for job interviews. Yeah, I mean,
100%.
They should. I'm of the opinion that not only at college but at the high school level, you should have like life classes, like teach these kids things. Like there are kids now that don't even understand how to write a check or what a checkbook is. Yeah, you don't need it as much these days, but there's still times where you have to pay by check for a couple things, or I don't know how you should do your own taxes or whatever.
Yeah, balanced checkbook, or even in today's day and age with the NIL, give them the financial like training to not go out and buy all like high priced shiny toys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
because that's
going
what
to Georgia and getting a Hellcat right away. It's Georgia. I swear to God, Georgia has the most Hellcats and Dodge Chargers I've ever seen in my entire life. Like every time you look up and it's in the news and somebody from Georgia got in a car accident, they were driving a Hellcat.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what is is the Dodge dealership down there? Like what is it part of the campus? Like where the hell are y'all getting these vehicles from?
Friends of the program.
It has to be because like all of them have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's insane. Artie Cat has question for you, Dominic. He sees your background. How would you save the NBA and fix that awful All-Star game? When I was young, each team seemed to have 2 good to great players.
And you have more great players on both conferences, so I don't see him doing away with that on the All-Star level, but I'd go back to how it was when like Jordan played and stop these like phantom fouls and all the acting more.
Well, it's too gimmicky. It's we're doing too much. Just best teams, the best players from the East, best players from the West. Let them play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and actually, and two, it's not so much the commissioner and the NBA's fault. It's the players.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to play in the All-Star game.
I think that's part of it too, because I think the players have too much control over.
Yeah. Well, they just don't. They don't want to play.
So, and everything.
Yeah, it's a terrible fan experience because none of them actually play basketball. It's like a glorified dunk contest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the dunk contest really isn't all that great.
Yeah, you get better dunks in the All-Star game than you get in the actual dunk competition. I mean, respectfully, I don't want some little white kid from the G League winning my dunk contest when there's guys like Ant Edwards who makes a poster every single evening. It seems like.
Yeah. I think the anomaly of that will also wear off very quickly, right? And he's now won 2 dunk contests in a row.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to see him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like it was cool the first time, and the fact that he was able to do it again was cool. If he starts doing it more, it's like you only bring him in for this. He's not even an NBA player. Like it's
right,
just,
and that's the thing. Like he's not even that great in the G League.
Right,
like, he's not even the best G League player.
No.
So what are we doing?
Magic Johnson was made to wear civil clothes on sideline if he was hurt or he would jump into the game. Now, I got a question. This is not just for basketball, just in general. Would anybody be a fan of seeing keep your East and West throughout the regular season, have your 8 and your 8 or your 10 and your 10 as the NBA does now, but then just have it go like intermingle? Like these are pro sports. We don't need to save on travel for the playoffs. Like if the 2 best teams in the East all year or the 2 best records were in the East all year, why not have the two of them go battle for the championship? If all the West teams were 10 games further back or so, you know what I mean? And that's not how it would work out, right? It's a playoff. That's not what it means it would be in the end. But why not have your 2 best teams, regardless of what conference they're in?
I see what you're saying. So you're saying it doesn't like take the conference away and just have the top.
Use it. Use it to seed. Like you can use it to seed. Not seed. You can use it to qualify, and then once
that's what I mean. But then once they get to the playoffs, then it's just the top 16 teams.
Yep.
Then have 10 or whatever, like a March Madness setup where you have the 1 seed of the East play the 16 seed or whatever it is, however it works out.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I
wouldn't be opposed to that.
Well, like I know, like for hockey, right? For the long time, and it's over now. But like the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals had like 2 big all-stars, Ovechkin versus Crosby, right? But they could never play each other for a championship because they were in the same conference. So they'd go up against, some team in the West that everybody knew was going to get drubbed or thought was going to get drubbed. It's like, why are we doing this? Why not have the best two teams go for the championship? I understand back in the day, save on travel costs and making it easy on the media. Man, travel is so easy these days with everything that they have in hands. It just doesn't make sense to me. Just go full in and give us the best two teams, regardless of which conference they're in. These are all.
Think about when Peyton Manning was playing for the Colts, and it used to be Manning and Brady, and seemed like every single NFC championship. I wanted that to be the Super Bowl. Like that should have been the Super Bowl, because then Tom Brady gets the Super Bowl and he's slaughtering these other teams. And it's like, guys, like that should have been the Super Bowl. So instead he's playing, respectfully, Drew Brees, who's only won one Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because like this year we had like the Chiefs and Eagles were like, all right, this is going to be a great Super Bowl, and then you had a crappy Super Bowl. So it's like it doesn't always work out, even when you have a good team from the East and the West, or it's not necessarily East and West when it's NFL, right? Well, but
but AFC, NFC is same concept.
Yeah, exactly. But I just didn't know thoughts and feelings on that, because I know some people are like, nah, I'm traditional, I don't want to mess with it, but I want to see the hell with tradition. Like, give us something crazy and more exciting, maybe.
Just give me the best teams versus the best teams. Like if you're, if the Eagles are first, but also, Washington is second, then just line them up 1 and 2. Yeah,
I'm down for it. Already also talking about load management when you guys were talking about NBA. I think all sports also have that. I mean, I don't know how much the NBA has something like this or does something like this, but the NHL is going through this thing right now where they can hide a guy on long-term IR, even if he's been ready to play the last 2 months of the season, but keeping him off the books there protects their salary cap, but then they can unload him onto the roster when the playoffs start, because the salary cap isn't an issue at that point. So they're kind of circumventing the salary cap to get a roster that literally would not be able to be on the ice as a rostered team in the regular season because of the salary cap. They'd be over, but in the playoffs that goes away. So they're trying to rectify that. That's kind of, to me, a little bit similar of a situation with the NBA doing the load management and having players sit out when they don't necessarily have to. But it could be beneficial in the long term. But I don't know. But I think we're over 2 hours. So if there are any extra news or notes, you want to give us one crazy prediction about the draft, whatever it may be, say it now or forever hold your peace.
Shedeur to Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay.
21st overall pick. I don't think he's going to go 9th to the Saints.
And I don't see him going first to the Raiders. So
no, he's not going to the Raiders.
Yeah. If Dad was going to the Raiders, he might be going to the Raiders, but
and two, the Raiders just paid Geno Smith a boatload of money. So
it's a good point.
Also, go ahead.
I was going to say UCLA just paid a second quarterback a boatload of money after paying one already, so you never know.
Ted McMillan to the Cowboys.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would work. I mean, they need a run and made for CD.
That's the fact. And he's 6'4", 220 pounds. It's a big boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You see him going offensive weapon, or you see him going offensive line, though?
Traditionally, we've done offensive line. And if that is the case, then I think it's going to be that offensive guard out of Alabama, who is just an absolute freak. I mean, I'm not mad at either pick.
Right.
Obviously the sexier pick is the wide receiver, but if we went offensive guard, especially having lost Zach Martin to retirement, I'm not mad at that kid out of I've seen 2 mock drafts. I've seen one where it's Ted McMillan, and I've seen the offensive guard from Alabama. I forget his name, but he's a freak, man. He's a son of a coach. And he's just an absolute phenom.
Nice. I'll throw one thing out. I think we will see Mike Green be the highest drafted Sun Belt player of all time. I think he'll go in that 7 to 10 range. I want to see him go there too. So maybe that's a little bit of it because I don't have the expertise Dominic has. But I'll just say I wouldn't mind seeing him be a Bear too. I think that's like a good fit for both like where he's played at and.
Well, it's a need. It's certainly a need for Chicago because Chicago they're shored up their offensive line this offseason. So they've got a couple hogs up there. They certainly don't need receivers or running backs. They just got a quarterback. And defense, they were not good last year. They couldn't stop a cold. So it would fit for sure.
Yeah.
Gotta get ready to play in the cold though.
Yeah. Artie says, after much thought and prayer, I'll be entering the portal for the upcoming season. So,
me too, Artie.
There you go. Your finger entered the portal earlier today, TJ.
Yeah, that my fingernail is undrafted right now.
Oh man! All right, fellas. I think that'll do it for this episode. This was a great 2 hours. It's longer than I thought it was going to be, but I loved it. This was a great time. TJ, I'm sorry you couldn't join us for the full length, but you brought some expertise and some fun stuff here at the end, so greatly appreciate it. And maybe we'll do an after the draft show too. We'll see.
That would be better. Wrap it up, see what's going on.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you guys on the next one.
Sunbelt Syndicate.